Hello, my name is Mike Newman, and I'm the CEO of Accordent Technologies, and today I'm joined by my good friend Zip, who's a Senior Product Manager at TANDBERG.
Hey, Mike.
Today, our webinar will be focused predominantly on using video conferencing and streaming media productively in your organization, as well as on the Accordent TANDBERG joint solution. Some quick housekeeping matters. We certainly would invite you to use our moderated Q&A feature, which can be found in the audience interface. We'll be trying to get to all the questions at the conclusion of this presentation. In addition, if you find that you want to switch to a larger slide region and have that slide be larger as opposed to the video, you can toggle that or maximize the slide. We did, however, want to have a large video region for Mike Lorenz's demonstration, which has been pre-recorded and will be shown in the middle of this presentation. Just quickly going through the agenda, we'll go through some quick introductions, but we'll be primarily focusing on some key market trends that we're seeing in the marketplace, as well as the joint solution overview. We'll then be turning it over to Mike Lorenz and regrouping for some audience Q&A at the end of this presentation. Now, Zip, I'm sure most people are familiar with TANDBERG, but would you mind giving a quick introduction of the company?
You bet. Mike, we're a publicly traded company on the Oslo Stock Exchange because we're based in Norway. We are the market leader in terms of HD video conferencing and telepresence and video conferencing infrastructure. We are largely seen as the technology leader in this space. We've got offices in 34 countries, but we have presence just about anywhere you might want to have a video conference. So we're a very financially strong organization, and we're actually doing quite well.
Great, thank you. And like TANDBERG, Accordent is focused on online communication and has been so since its founding in 1999. I think some of our differentiators are that we're focused predominantly on large organizations, whether they be traditional enterprise, education, or government. And we're focused on streaming solutions as well as the management and archival and protection of online communications content that's been archived. Now, before diving into the technology, Zip, we thought it would be useful to talk about some of the broader business trends that we're seeing, because I think the unique thing about this day and age is these trends are impacting everyone and virtually every company. And the first of which is that we're all being tasked with doing more with less, whether we're tasked with reducing costs, whether we want improved productivity. Not only are these trends pervasive, there's really a sense of urgency. And I think one of the themes we'll see in today's presentation is doing more with less is really quantitative, and it gets into people want to see measurable results.
Yeah, and I think the timing of this relationship and maybe even this webinar is really quite prescient, because we're seeing a shift in the workplace. We're seeing a shift in the way people work, and we're seeing that across. We're seeing that in government, education. We're seeing it certainly in the public and the private sectors. And we're seeing the coming together of some of these disparate business tools into sort of one solution types of setups. Yep. Yeah, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that today.
Absolutely, and I think it's very appropriate for you actually to talk about TANDBERG's stance on environmental responsibility, because certainly TANDBERG's been a thought leader in that regard.
Yeah, we've got a very strong commitment to making sure that we're a good corporate citizen and we're a good citizen of the world. We're based in Norway. The environment is incredibly important to the company as a whole and to all of its employees. And what's really interesting is we're seeing what was sort of a marketing message for green back a couple of years ago translating into real, live, demonstrable, let's make sure we're doing the right thing for the planet and our customer base and in the industry at large.
Yeah, I think what's very interesting as you look at all of those trends together is that there's some overlap, and you can actually solve problems in one area of those trends while solving problems in others.
Yep.
Diving down a little bit, I think it's worthwhile to talk about some of the visual communication trends that our respective organizations are seeing. And I think, thankfully, video communication is really now pervasive. It's virtually ubiquitous. Employees are getting exposure to online communications in the workplace. Consumers are getting exposure to it outside of the workplace. And really, it's everywhere. And I think a predicate to using solutions in online communication successfully is being exposed to them and having a familiarity and a comfort level. And I definitely think we're there today.
Yeah, we definitely are. I mean, over the last, let's say, 4 years or so, TANDBERG's been working really hard in a interactive communication with our customers and the industry at large to figure out, sort of where the benefits are from this technology and leverage that up. And we've got some great statistics that come directly from our customers. So customers like Statoil, who have been able to compress a 2-month decision cycle into a 2 weeks worth of time. So that gets them to market faster, or it gets them to solve a problem quicker, and more economically as well. So that has ramifications sort of throughout the whole cycle. Companies like TNT that have actually measured the return on investment they get from these visual communication technologies to the point where they see themselves saving $12 million over 4 years. I mean, that's a fantastic return on investment, but what's also real interesting is at the same time, they're less impact on the environment, so that's great, and also a better work-life balance. Instead of having to put people on planes, they can meet via visual communications. Instead of putting everybody in the same place for training, they can participate in that training online. And that makes for just a healthier work environment, a healthier home environment, and a healthier, natural environment.
Yeah, and I think, those examples illustrate the point that technology and solutions are no longer about being neat. They're absolutely essential, and I think the ROI statement and so forth is really compelling. It segues nicely to another trend we're seeing in the marketplace, which is if the initiative matters, it's being measured. And organizations are demanding the analytics around what they're trying to accomplish, whether it's on the front end, how are we defining success, how are we measuring whether we've been successful or not. And I think that applies really to all technologies, all solutions generally, but we're certainly seeing that in visual communications. People want that underlying data that really transforms conjecture as far as were we successful, were we not, it looked good, but let's see how it was received, into certainty.
Yeah, and we're actually doing that with this webcast, right? So we've got, how many people online do we know?
Well, at last check, we had about 503 out of over 750 registrants. So we have a pretty good sense of who's in and who we need to follow up with afterwards and so forth.
So that's great. That's like raw metrics, but we can actually drill down using the Accordent tools and figure out how long they stayed on. Were they tired of hearing me talk? Did they bail out? Did they stay to the very end? Who asked what questions? And this not only helps us get a sort of a sense around the whole thing, but it lets us make our next webcast even better,
And we get an understanding of who's interested and how we can follow up with those folks. And I agree with you. I mean, it's really about better servicing the folks that are taking the time to watch these webinars, because they're definitely designed for them.
Yeah. So what we're bringing to the table today is a solution that we've been working together on for a little bit now. We've actually had in the field, and we've been testing it and that kind of stuff. And it's the coming together of two very, very powerful sort of areas in visual communications. So on TANDBERG's side, we've got the HD video conferencing, telepresence, even personal video conferencing, and our ability to do all this stuff in real time, and also our ability to capture it with our content server. We'll talk a little bit about that, right? And we're also now adding in all the Accordent technologies into this solution. It's a little bit like, I know you love this analogy, this tastes great, and this is fantastic. This is Norwegian chocolate that we're going to share after the webcast. But when you put them together, man, it's a great solution, right? And a good example is how we got to this webinar today, right? Yeah. So we used TANDBERG video conferencing technology, HD video conferencing technology, to practice and go over the slides, and we had our marketing people involved and all that kind of stuff, right? And then we decided, since we had such a large audience, and since I live so close to LA, I just got in the car, I drove up here, and we decided to use the capture station and all of its capabilities to capture this webinar and bring it. So really nice bringing together the two solution sets, and then we wrap it with the Accordent Media Management System, which I'm going to let you talk a little bit about.
Yeah, and the way we see it, because a content creation component is absolutely essential. And historically, it actually could be used standalone in both tactical and strategic ways. I think as we go back to some of the trends we were talking about, with having more and more being measured and being tracked and refining initiatives over time, the management system really provides that organizational layer where you can collect the content, protect it, track usage, test and certify, and really use it productively as an organization as opposed to only an individual. And I think in that way, our solutions are very symbiotic, because obviously all that high quality content creation is your forte.
So let's talk a little bit about the different pieces of the solution.
Absolutely.
So TANDBERG brings to the table the high-quality HD video conferencing and telepresence, and those systems are used for meetings all day long, for presentations, for training, that type of material. And we've got customers that have tens or hundreds or thousands of these video conferencing systems all over the world. And we add the TANDBERG content server, which is a network-based appliance that goes in the cloud somewhere. We add a content server into any of these video calls, and we can capture the audio, the video, and the presentations in HD type quality, really, really high quality audio and video. And we can capture all of that stuff and hold it on the content server, either stream it out live to people on their computers or actually create an archive from it. Now, what we're able to do is create a ton of content in this way, right? Now, what we've built the solution around with Accordent is the ability to really manage enterprise scale content creation with all the management capabilities that the Accordent brings to bear.
Yeah, and following up on that, Zip, really how we look at the integration is you are creating a ton of content. And not all of it needs to be archived necessarily, and not all of it needs to filter into a larger organizational initiative, but a lot of it does. And both of us are seeing customers out there who are driving key training initiatives, key corporate communications initiatives, and it's very, very useful to be able to organize that content. I mean, you're talking about the proliferation of thousands and thousands of pieces of content. How are they categorized? How do you search for them? What's the metadata that's used to enable someone to jump to an exact location in a presentation? How are we going to track who's watching it, how they interact with it, and so forth? And I think marrying the two solutions really provides, well, I hate to say it, your chocolate and peanut butter analogy, a balance of what the marketplace really needs to be strategically successful. Great content creation, but also under the umbrella of being strategic about using that content.
And the solution also allows us to really tailor it to sort of our needs, right? So TANDBERG's actually using the solution internally. We're doing quite a bit of testing and have intention to bring it outside to our TANDBERG University.
Yep.
And the idea here is that we can control the look and feel. We can use content that's created from our video conferencing endpoints, from our telepresence suites, so those act as studios, if you will, so drive more return on investment for our customers. But it also gives us the ability to really control the look and the feel and have very corporate, very professional material out for our partners and our customers.
And just building on that, one of the focuses of the integration is, again, the business intelligence and the categorization, because we're not talking about little pockets of content creation. We are talking about an organization that has selected to distribute the content creation component, but then assimilate all of that and make it useful to the entire organization, not let it die off in real time or die off over time in some island, but really to bring it all together. And that's why we see the content server as an absolutely essential product in this equation. It is the bridge between traditional video conferencing and streaming. It is what we have been looking for. It is what our resellers have been asking for. It is really what the marketplace wants, whether they're articulating it as the content server or simply saying, we need a solution that does this.
And it's our pleasure to deliver that.
Absolutely. So you alluded to some of the ways in which TANDBERG's been using these technologies together as a joint solution. Is there any other ways?
Well, one of the interesting things is, as the product manager for the content server, we've been using the content server for the last couple of years inside of the business, and we've been using it quite a bit. I was continually getting, who's seen it, how popular is it, how's it doing? Are people watching the whole thing?
Yeah.
Was that message too long? And now bringing the Accordent tools in here, I can start answering, yes, that message was too long. So we can start really refining the delivery of this content and make better use of people's time, make better use of the tools that are available to us throughout our organization. And we're going to start reaching outside the organization soon with the Accordent and the TANDBERG solution. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and like yourselves, we've been leveraging these solutions for a long time. And as you can imagine, we need to be constantly reaching out to our employees, staying in communication with our resellers, reaching out to customers. And it's not always either cost-effective or even really productive, a good use of time to be hopping on a plane. I mean, the amount we can accomplish in 5 hours as opposed to sitting on a plane is just enormous. And so we've been incorporating it for training. Again, the metrics are just tremendous, really justifying whether we as Accordent are doing a good job. And by that I mean educating the folks that are important to us, staying in front of them. And so I think this happened for us so naturally because we had the same needs that we're seeing out in the marketplace. Now, at this time, I'd like to segue over to Mike Lorenz. I do want to remind you that Zip and I will be circling back to answer your questions, so please feel free to submit them using the Q&A feature. I also want to mention that an archive of this presentation will be made available on both the Accordent and TANDBERG web properties. So if you are unable to sit through the entire demonstration or need to leave early before the Q&A, you can certainly access it shortly after this live webinar concludes.
And go.
So I'm going to go ahead and show you an overview of the TANDBERG content server first. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. This is the web interface to the TANDBERG content server. You can see here it's essentially a link dump of all of the presentations that have been recorded on the TANDBERG content server. You can see those here. There's a thumbnail of the presentation along with the title and some metadata about the presentation. If I want to view that, I can click on it here, and it will open up the built-in TANDBERG content server interface. So you can see it's got the players down here and a widescreen shot of the video. Now, the TANDBERG content server is used to record video conferences. It can be either a single endpoint or it can join a MCU to have a multi-endpoint conference call. And it will go ahead and record whatever's being broadcasted on that. Now, the TANDBERG content server will encode both Windows Media Live as well as for archive for on-demand. Now, the integration with the Accordent media management system is basically using the TCS to both encode those live video calls as well as archive a version of that. And so we add a front-end portal to that recording, as well as offer a number of capabilities, which I'll get into here shortly. So let's go ahead and set up a conference call. And I'm going to do that by conference setup here, create conference. Now you can see here I have a number of options, and I'll just go ahead and fill those out real quickly. I'll pick my alias, which is basically the template, what type of call I want to record, and I have that set up for Windows Media. The dial number, which is what endpoint or MCU number I want to dial into, and I just have an endpoint here that I'm going to enter. How much bandwidth I want to use for the call. And if I scroll down, I go ahead and add metadata to this recording as well. Now, this metadata will be used by the Accordent Media Management System to basically add the title, speaker, and I'll fill that out here, so that'll get mapped directly over into the Accordent Media Management System. And it'll also be searchable, so I'll go ahead and walk you through some of that. And just type in video call there, speaker. And the keywords here actually get mapped over to the categories of the Accordent Media Management System. So if I go ahead and put in different categories under the keywords, these presentations will automatically get dropped into certain permissioned categories on the system. So let's go ahead and place the call here. So it's going to start the call. It's going to join the endpoint. There you go. And obviously, if you have a TANDBERG management server, you can also manage the content servers and have them automatically join calls. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the Accordent Media Management System. You can see here there's a login, there's branding here. This can be branded for your company's look and feel, so color, styling, logos. Over here, this login screen, this is a default login, so this is actually how it comes out of the box. We also have Active Directory LDAP integration and single sign-on. So if you're integrated into any of those types of services, basically this screen will completely go away. We'll already know who the user is, and it will just map right through the system. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and log in though. Now, when I'm logging in as an individual, if I'm integrated into Active Directory, categories can automatically get mapped. So permissions-based viewing of content. You can see the categories here. Content belongs in each one of these. You can see the number of pieces of content next to that. So here, if I click TANDBERG content, you'll see a number of presentations here. The content itself has all the metadata from the TCS in here, so the title, the descriptions, metadata. If I click on this, I can watch the presentation. And so you can see the video in a branded interface. Now this interface isn't just branded, it's also got a number of other things built into it. One is user tracking. So one of the powerful features of the Accordent Media Management System is being able to know who was watching, what presentation, and exactly how long they watched for, and things like where they watched from. You can see that here in my recent views, the tracking, they watched 19% of that. So we just watched 19% of this presentation. One of the other capabilities is allowing a person to go back right to where they left off in a presentation. So I clicked on that, it would take me back to that point. Some of the other capabilities of the media management system is upcoming events. So you can announce presentations that are going to be available or events that are going to happen. And I have a MMS TCS video conference here. You can see I could register for that. I could get sent out email reminders. Don't forget the town hall meeting that's coming up, webinars, that type of stuff. If I register for it, it'll just go ahead and add me to the list, and I'll get updated reminders. You can see here that the event is scheduled, is upcoming, and I'll go ahead and switch over to the admin point of the Accordent Media Management System and associate the recording that's the call that's going on right now in the TANDBERG content server with this upcoming event. So let's go ahead and log into the Accordent Media Management Systems admin. So you can see now I'm in the Accordent Media Management System. This one's version 2.5. If I click over at Content Manager, I'll go over to my Server Directory Management. Down here under my External Directory list, you can see that I have my TANDBERG content server listed here. Now this is for on-demand and live presentations. The total presentations on that system that are imported into the media management system is 60, so you see that here. And I can see my ongoing live streams, so my live meetings that are happening right now down here. Now one of the powerful parts about the solution between TCS and the Accordent Media Management System is that you can have multiple TANDBERG content servers out in your organization. So if you have like 10 of them capturing content, normally you'd have to go to each one of those portal to see the content for it. Now with Accordent Media Management System being the front end portal, we can actually have multiple TANDBERG content servers listed under here, all shown on one portal. So all that content is essentially centralized for a person to access and search through. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and actually sync up one of the live streams with one of the upcoming events. So I simply click Add, and I can create either a new upcoming event from scratch, or I could go ahead and associate it with one that's been pre-advertised out there on the portal system. So go ahead and click on that. I also have some additional options, so I could assign it to a specific group here. I'll just go ahead and drop this one in the TANDBERG content group, and go ahead and hit save. And you can see it incremented it there to 91 live and on-demand presentations from this TCS. If I go back to the portal system now, so I'm going back to the Accordent Media Management System portal, over here, you'll see that my upcoming event is now available. So I can go ahead and launch this event. This is going to pull up the live stream. Now this will also do live tracking, so the tracking is available for live as well as on demand, and you can see it's tracking here. Some of the other powerful features of the Accordent Media Management System is allowing you to search through these presentations. So let's go back to the main portal and go ahead and search for a piece of content. So let's search on the term, let's say global. And I'll search on that. You can see it came back with green as a competitive advantage. Now, the reason why it came back with this response is you can see that under chapters here, at 4 minutes into the presentation, global survey was mentioned in the chapter point. One of the capabilities here is to dig deep down into the metadata of a presentation and be able to go ahead and play from that point. Now, creating content like this presentation here with some additional functionality is accomplishable through Presenter Plus. So Accordent has a product called Accordent Presenter Plus, and allows you to basically edit presentation metadata. And so you can see here we ended up taking content that was created from the TANDBERG content server and adding chapter points to it, additional things like being able to email the presenter or moderated Q&A, having downloadable documents, and again, having the capabilities of tracking and being able to know exactly where someone watched from this presentation. So, and a completely branded experience for the end user. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the reports in the Accordent Media Management System. So if I come over here, I can see who's currently online. I can also see reports based on a specific presentation. So let's go into one here. You can see there's an overview of the Accordent Media Management System presentation. There's been 40 views. If I click over here, I can actually see details about who watched, when they watched, where they watched from, as well as how long they watched. And all of this information is downloadable via a CSV file. Some of the other powerful features in here is actually seeing where those people watched from. So I can see the exact regions, and if I go ahead and click into this, I can actually see even more detail. So I can see 3 people watched this presentation from Dallas, Texas. I can also get summary of the average viewing time of the people in that region. Some of the other reports that you can see is how long the length viewed, so the average length viewed, as well as the bit rate that people are watching. Some of the live reports that are pretty interesting to look at are things like the quality of service metrics report. Now this report allows me to view the experience of an end user. So you can see here, my clearance are viewed from this IP address, and I can get information based on how many packets I received, how many packets I lost, as well as information on that particular session of viewing. So I know exactly when I watched, and I can look here at how much buffering time was used, the frame rates, frame rate averages, any frames that were skipped, any lost packets, and the total received packets, even down to the player version, so what version of the player they were running. Very powerful information to have so you can understand how your viewers' experience is taking place on the network. Some of the other reporting here, viewing on-board reporting, knowing when people are joining, when people are leaving the presentation, and a number of others. There's also reporting based on testing and surveys. So our testing and survey engine, you can essentially associate tests with pieces of content. They have to watch 100% of it. They'll take the test, And here's where you'd run your reports to see who's answered specific questions and get a summary of the surveys as well. That's the end of my presentation. Hopefully you understand the power of the TANDBERG content server integrated with the Accordent media management system, and I appreciate your time.
Well, Zip, we're back for some Q&A. I hope everyone enjoyed Mike Lorenz's demo. Zip, I want to start off with some good news, which is we've gotten a lot of questions, some very good questions. We currently have an audience size that is vastly in excess of our expectations, which I think is also very good news. But we also had a couple questions regarding some technical glitches. And I just wanted to reiterate, if you weren't here at the outset of the presentation, it will be made available on demand, both on the Accordent and the TANDBERG web properties. In addition, the slides will be available for download as well. So I think with that, why don't we take some questions?
Alan writes in, can you talk about the synchronization of slides with the video that comes through the video conferencing unit?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Sure.
So when we're using a TANDBERG video conferencing system, or frankly a video conferencing system from another manufacturer that supports a standard called H.239, you usually would plug your computer directly into the back of the video conferencing system. In the world of TANDBERG, that's just a VGA cable. And you'd press the blue presentation button on a TANDBERG system, so for those of you who are familiar with that. The content server will grab the audio and video from the main camera and also up to 1024 by 768 resolution of the PC, and that's captured as full motion. So if we were using a TANDBERG content server to capture this webinar, we'd be capturing the slides in as a full motion video source alongside the video. We chose for this presentation to use the capture station and use the studio here at Accordent because frankly it was available to us. And you know, as Mike and I were talking about, I've got a convertible and an SUV. And when I go to Home Depot, I take the SUV. We had a very large audience. We wanted to incorporate some recorded demonstration, so we decided to use the capture station. And that's the beauty of the solution is we could use either. So you know, next week we might do a webinar that uses just video conferencing. This week we're using a webinar that uses the capture station.
We have another question, a similar question. I came in late. What are the different pieces involved in this webcast? What am I looking at?
Me or you?
You take this one,
Okay.
and I'll embellish.
Super. So what you're looking at is, first of all, we'll take you from your experience on back through the technology. So you're looking at a web portal and a web viewer that's being generated from the Accordent media management system. And the stream is actually being created from the Accordent capture station, which is here in the studio. And that all the video is being encoded, the video now is being encoded and sent up through some content distribution mechanism on the internet. I'm not exactly
External
sure what you're
CDN.
using. Yeah, so in order to get to a very, very wide audience. And do we actually know how many people are watching live?
We had 515 last time I checked. So that was a very high conversion rate. It was higher than anticipated, and I think we had an opportunity to test our network.
And I would have been much more nervous if you had told me that many people were watching live.
Now we know.
Yeah.
Another question, can you do a multi-point video conference where you have presenters at different sites without a video conferencing bridge? Does the software you are demoing act as a bridge? Can you do this for live events?
So in order to have a video conference and run it out to the content server, you need to have some form of a multi-point bridge. In the world of TANDBERG, that could be our multi-site software right on the endpoint itself. So if we were going to do maybe, say, a four-way video call, we can do that right inside of the TANDBERG MXP or even the C60, C90 software. One of those sites would be the content server. So in order to do an actual interactive video call, we'd have to have some form of a bridge, whether it's a Codeine MCU or it's the internal multi-site or even a third-party MCU or even a service provider. And the content server gets added in to the call as one of the ports, if you will, of that call. If all we wanted to do was a presentation, we could just call from any video conferencing system to the content server. That's not really a video call, that's really creating a presentation for training or something, but it is possible to do without an MCU.
Tom asks, what exactly is included in this solution? Can you provide more details?
I'll let you take this one.
I'll take this one. The solution itself is really an integration between two products, the TANDBERG content server and the media management system. And I'd say both of those solutions integrated together may not constitute what those out in larger organizations may really need as a full-blown solution. So what I would say is it's a very meaningful integration. It bridges the gap between traditional video conferencing into streaming and then into archival, tracking, content management, reporting, and so forth. But I think really in sort of a larger view, the solution would include the endpoints, the telepresence units, and looking at our integration as the way of transforming those things, not only for point-to-point communications and meetings, but really transforming them into studio environments as well. I really think that's where users would derive the value of the solution.
I think you're also going to see, you've got the video conferencing endpoints, you've got the content server, you've got a bunch of our infrastructure, multi-point bridges we've talked a little bit about. The Accordent media management system for managing the media, maybe even capture stations for creating stuff like we're doing out of the studio. And then a lot of our customers have content distribution networks throughout their wide area networks. Maybe they need to use internet-based content distribution like we're using for this session. So the solution is going to depend on sort of tailored to each particular customer need. Big organizations with really big goals are going to have more pieces than a smaller organization sort of just getting started.
Kim writes, can you tell me more about the kind of reports that we'll be able to produce?
Sure. The goal of the integration between TANDBERG Content Server and the Media Management System was to afford video conferencing produced content and TANDBERG Content Server produced content the same tracking capabilities that we enjoy from the Media Management System. And so we're really starting with the authentication element. Who's going in to view the content? What are they watching? How long are they watching for? And so forth. I mean, really the integral data that explains, okay, we've created this content, we believe it's compelling, we believe people will come and watch it, but how are they interacting with it? How are they behaving? Certainly, there is a product roadmap for the integrated solution, and reporting is one of the areas where, as our product evolves with AMMS v3, as your products evolve, we'd really like to keep the reporting as robust as possible.
Also, for those folks that are from the TANDBERG world, you're familiar with the TANDBERG Management Suite. And the TANDBERG Management Suite has quite a bit of call detail reporting about the video call portion. You could think of the Accordent Media Management System as bringing sort of that user detail reporting into. So in the video call, in the video world, we know how many video calls were made, how long the call was, all that statistics. If you map that then over to the Accordent Media Management System, you have similar like user detail reporting, who saw what, where, how, and when. It's a very powerful to have both of these management suites available to you.
Scott writes, I have a two-part question. Who do I talk to about purchasing this product, and who will support it?
Let's talk about the purchasing and then the support it.
Yeah, right now as an integrated solution, we're going out to market. We both leverage reseller channels to which we're committed and sell exclusively through. So it'll be available through them. I think from a support perspective, you have two experts in online communications. I think we probably failed to mention at the outset of this presentation really the true nature of the relationship between the companies. And I think coming from the TANDBERG perspective, maybe you have a better way of articulating that.
So Accordent worked with our application programming interface in order to get the data that they need out of the content server to then bring the content into the Accordent Media Management System. So that was the beginning of this integration. And what we found as an organization was that Accordent really understands enterprise streaming. They have very, very large enterprise streaming customers. And one of the most valuable parts of this relationship is that the Accordent folks are being fully trained on the content server and will be able to implement and support the content server for our customers. And so it becomes a part of a mission-critical implementation where sort of the streaming portion is Accordent's forte, and the real-time video conferencing portion, the telepresence HD video conferencing, that's TANDBERG's forte, but these work very nicely together.
We have time for two more questions. Here's one. If you have a presentation captured via Accordent, can you later add in content from a TCS recording?
It's a pretty technical question.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how I would answer that, so we'll send an email on that question, sorry.
It's a good question, though.
Joe writes, can I buy this through my reseller?
It depends on who your reseller is, I guess, right? So if it's a TANDBERG reseller, you can certainly buy the content server.
Yep, absolutely, and an Accordent authorized reseller will be authorized to resell the solution as well. So really what we're trying to do, given the demand we're seeing not only in the marketplace but also among our resellers, is to get this out to market quickly, because I think, going back to some of the trends we hit upon, everybody is hearing about them. It's just, what is the solution that maps to those problems? And we think that an online communication solution maps very well. Obviously, it helps in cost reduction capacities, increase productivity, and so forth. And so we're trying to push this out to the marketplace. I would say a combination of quickly yet carefully. As Zip alluded to, it does take an expertise in streaming media, I think, to make sure implementations are successful, that they map to the requirements of the organization, that they're designed to evolve as those organization initiatives grow. So we're moving as quickly as we can in that regard. I think this educational presentation is really where we want to get started with our going to market.
And so ask your reseller for the TANDBERG content server.
Yep.
And the Accordent media management solution.
One more. Can content be accessed by employees, clients outside of the enterprise?
I'll take that one. Assuming, for sake of the joint solution, that the media management system is integrated, it's an extremely flexible solution that not only can ingest the content, but whether it's integrated into LDAP, Active Directory, whether it's made generally available to the public, can be used to protect content, organize content, really in the way that best fits the organization. We have companies that currently use the AMMS exclusively for publicly consumed content. This could be more PR, marketing-driven content. On the other side of the equation, we have very confidential content that's being consumed by employees where you want rigorous security, and we can comply with those requirements as well. I think what's fantastic about the integration is we're extending that level of security all the way out to the distributed endpoints, ingesting that through TCS, and preserving that organization, preserving that level of security, and enabling people to consume that content in new and potentially more productive ways. Well, I think that's all the time we have for questions today. I want to thank you on behalf of Zip and myself for attending this webinar. We certainly enjoyed producing it. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I get the impression there are a lot of questions queued up, so we'll be reaching out to those people individually, and again, archives of this presentation will be available. Thank you, and we hope you have a great day.